Get anything on you?
Stay with him. I'm at my house.
Okay, I don't know. I'm asking you. But ask you. Who's in the car?
This is my car. She took my car.
Who's she to you?
We'll just be right here. My child mother.
Oh, okay. All right.
The victim reported sustaining minor injuries, including visible bruising to her left arm at the time the report was made, and she sought medical attention.
3 serious charges like that, I mean, felony charges, you're obviously potentially looking at prison time and years in prison. And this is something that Gervonta Davis is now going to have to deal with.
The FBI just released body cam footage that has the entire boxing world in absolute chaos. Tank Davis, one of the sport's biggest superstars, is officially on the run from federal authorities right now. And what I'm about to break down for you shows this isn't just another athlete getting into trouble. This is a career-ending scandal that's been building for years, and it just exploded in the most devastating way possible.
At approximately 2:15 p.m., the victim entered the Miami Gardens Police Department, accompanied by her attorney, to report an incident that occurred on October 27, 2025. At the time of the incident, the victim was employed at a local gentleman's club located within the city of Miami Gardens. According to the victim's statement, at approximately 4:15 a.m., while working, she was approached by Mr. Davis. The victim was approached by Mr. Davis. The victim reported that Mr. Davis grabbed her by her back of her head, pulling her by her hair with one hand and by her throat with the other. He forcefully escorted her down a stairway and toward the parking garage while maintaining his grip on the back of her head. Upon reaching the parking garage, the victim reported that Mr. Davis released her, at which point she was able to run towards her co-workers for safety. The victim reported sustaining minor injuries, including visible bruising to her left arm at the time the report was made, and she sought
Here's what nobody else is telling you about this Miami Gardens arrest warrant. We're not talking about some minor scuffle or misunderstanding. The charges against Gervonta Davis include felony battery, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping. Let me repeat that: attempted kidnapping. These are the kind of charges that destroy lives and end careers permanently. And the woman at the center of all this, his ex-girlfriend Courtney Rossell, who dated Davis until just 1 month before this alleged incident went down. Court documents reveal she filed the complaint, and here's the wild part: police say they have surveillance footage, witness statements, and medical reports that back up every single detail of her story. This isn't he said, she said anymore. This is a mountain of evidence that has law enforcement so convinced they've brought in the U.S. Marshals to hunt him down like a fugitive.
The victim further reported that she has known Mr. Davis since 2022, and they were previously involved in an intimate relationship for approximately 5 months, which ended about a month prior to the incident. She stated she had blocked all forms of communication with Mr. Davis after the relationship ended. During the course of the investigation, lead detective Gary Florencio obtained and reviewed video surveillance footage that corroborates key elements of the victim's statement. As a result of the diligent and hard work of our Special Victims Unit, an arrest warrant has been issued for Gervonta Bryant Davis on the following charges: battery, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping. The investigation determined that Mr. Davis used force to restrain and attempt to remove the victim from the location against her will. The victim was only able to escape when Mr. Davis released his hold to retrieve his vehicle.
But wait, it gets so much worse. Davis had the chance to turn himself in quietly, handle this like a professional, maybe work out some kind of arrangement with his legal team. Instead, he's nowhere to be found. The Miami Gardens Police Department has officially confirmed they're actively searching for him with every resource at their disposal. When you don't surrender on an arrest warrant, you automatically become a fugitive. And now the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force is involved. These are the people who track down escaped murderers and international criminals. The fact that they're using federal resources to find a boxer should tell you everything about how serious these charges really are.
Annalise, Eric, the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force and Miami Gardens Police are currently searching for Gervonta Tank Davis, the professional boxer who has a history of domestic violence charges. In this latest case, he has not yet turned himself in to authorities. Now, at last update, Davis is still not in custody. Local 10 did reach out to attorneys representing Davis to find out if or when he plans to turn himself in. So far, we've not received a response.
Now here's the pattern that's absolutely mind-blowing. This is not Tank's first rodeo with domestic violence allegations. Not even close. We're talking about a decade-long history of similar incidents that keep getting swept under the rug while he continues making millions in the ring. Back in 2017, he was charged with first-degree assault for allegedly attacking a friend. That case was so serious it led to the immediate cancellation of his scheduled fight with Jake Paul. A multi-million-dollar bout just vanished because of his inability to keep his hands to himself outside the ring. And you know what's crazy? His team keeps acting like these are isolated incidents, like bad luck that keeps following him around. But when the same type of allegations surface every few years, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern of behavior.
He is one of the most exciting and ferocious fighters in the world, bar none, period, full stop. But there's always something like this that Gervonta is seemingly dealing with. I mean, he's 30-0-1. He had one draw against Lamont Roach. He's got 28 knockouts. I mean, he virtually knocks out, just spark out cold everyone he fights, but he's got these things that happen to him, and it's already cost him in a massive way financially. The Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight was not ever supposed to happen. That was obviously, like Lucas said, supposed to be Tank. But Jake has to pull out because he gets accused of these really horrible things. And now it just got a whole lot more serious because, look, you could argue Gervonta can afford to lose the money. He's done tremendously well for himself. But when you're talking about 3 serious charges like that, I mean, felony charges, you're obviously potentially looking at prison time and years in prison. And this is something that Gervonta Davis is now going to have to deal with as the U.S. Marshals, like Lucas also said, on his heels, trying to track him down, trying to throw those cuffs on him and bring him.
Here's where it gets really disturbing. Tank actually went on Brian Custer's podcast recently and opened up about his struggles with anger management. He admitted he has problems controlling his temper and claimed he was working on himself through anger management classes. He even said boxing was his outlet for aggression, his way of channeling those violent impulses in a controlled environment. But here's the thing that nobody's pointing out. If you know you have anger issues, if you're in therapy for violence, if you've been arrested multiple times for similar incidents, how do you end up facing kidnapping charges? That's not a moment of lost control. That's escalation to a completely different level of criminal behavior.
We've seen him in a domestic violence situation. He's been arrested multiple times in the past, and now he's got new problems because the 26-year-old has been hit with 14 criminal charges.
And get this, the last time he was arrested, Davis was released on a measly $10,000 bond. $10,000 for a guy who makes millions per fight. But what really caught everyone's attention was how he walked out of that jail. Corrections officers were escorting him personally, keeping reporters at a distance, treating him like some kind of VIP instead of an alleged domestic abuser. Multiple news outlets questioned whether he was getting special treatment because of his celebrity status. Meanwhile, regular people sit in jail for months on similar charges because they can't afford bond. The whole thing reeked of a 2-tier justice system where famous athletes get handled with kid gloves while their alleged victims get ignored.
What do you wish that people knew about Gervonta Tank Davis that maybe they don't understand?
I'm funny. I'm fun to be around. I'm human. I'm not somebody that's feel as though that's like, when I say bougie or stuck up or anything like that. I feel as though a lot of people see that they go off my my boxing, how I am in a ring, and they use that as of
how they make judgment on you.
Yeah, how they make judgment on me. I feel as though that I'm much more of a person than just a boxer. You know what I mean? I feel as though I'm not somebody that's just mean or stuck up 24/7.
But this time is completely different, and here's why Tank should be absolutely terrified. The charges he's facing now carry serious prison time. We're talking about multiple felonies that could result in a decade or more behind bars if he's convicted. Battery, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping, each of those charges alone can destroy someone's life. Combined, they represent a level of alleged criminal behavior that goes way beyond anything he's faced before. And here's the kicker. With his history of similar allegations, Any judge is going to look at this as a pattern of escalating violence. First-time offenders sometimes get breaks. Repeat offenders with a documented history of anger issues and domestic violence allegations, they get made examples of.
In his car, get into a Camaro and flee from the crash scene, which is illegal. That's a hit and run. You're not allowed to do that. Meanwhile, the 4 people in the car that was hit in the accident, like I said, were all hospitalized for their injuries. So there was an investigation that's been going on because this incident went down in November 5th, just days after Gervonta's big knockout victory over Leo Santa Cruz, a sensational performance by Gervonta Davis. So officials have been investigating. They say they have video, they have witnesses, and they have hit him with 14 criminal charges, including hit and run, including driving on a suspended license, and several more. And if convicted on all counts, this is the important part, he could go to prison for more than 7 years. Gervonta Davis, 26 years old, in the prime of his career, could go to prison for 7 years for this. This is a big deal, guys.
Yeah, this is a big deal, and all I think about is the fact that he's constantly been getting in trouble, and so sometimes these things catch up with you. Fleeing a site, I mean, with your actual car there, I don't know how he thought he was going to get away with that because the car's still there, but just for people that are, when there's smoke, there's fire, and as you said, he's had so many different instances, so you kind of figured at a certain point things would catch up with him.
Yeah, look, these are very serious charges. I feel bad that the people got hurt. Ultimately, and this is just a prediction here, I think that Gervonta Davis, he just has so much money behind him and so much money he could possibly make in the future.
Listen, I'm going to be real with you about something that's breaking my heart as a boxing fan. Tank Davis is one of the most gifted fighters of this generation. This is a kid who came from nothing in Baltimore, worked his way up through pure talent and determination, and became one of the biggest names in the sport. He's undefeated. He's got knockout power that's absolutely devastating, and he was on track to become one of the all-time greats. But talent doesn't excuse criminal behavior. Success doesn't give you the right to hurt people, and money sure as hell doesn't put you above the law, no matter how much his team wants to act like it does.
They are working now with the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force to locate and arrest Gervonta Davis. This doesn't just happen automatically. When someone has an active warrant and law enforcement believes they may be difficult to locate, avoiding contact, or capable of crossing jurisdictions, U.S. Marshals are often brought in. For you guys wondering, what exactly do the U.S. Marshals do? I got you. They are the oldest federal law enforcement agency in the country, operating under the Department of Justice, and they specialize in the following: tracking and arresting fugitives, assisting with high-profile warrants, running joint task forces with local police, protecting federal courts and judges. So when the marshals get involved, it's not like some small thing. It signals that authorities are treating the situation with a heightened level of urgency.
It's even more tragic as watching this pattern repeat itself over and over again. Every few years, new allegations surface. Every time his team issues some statement about how he's learned from his mistakes and he's working on himself. Every time the boxing world collectively shrugs and moves on because he brings in pay-per-view money. But look where we are now. The alleged incidents have escalated from assault to kidnapping. The legal consequences have gone from misdemeanors to multiple felonies. The law enforcement response has escalated from local police to federal marshals. At what point do we stop pretending this is just a troubled young man who needs another chance?
Right there. For, allegedly beating up the mother of 2 of his kids. So I guess this happened on Father's Day outside of her home. A verbal dispute happened. I guess what she said is that Gervonta was upset over personal matters and Gervonta having insecurities about the sexuality of their son. So I guess maybe their son might be gay or something of that sort. He showed up to pick up the kids. The argument escalated. And then after Gervonta put the kids in the car, she alleges that Gervonta punched her in the rear of her head with a closed fist and slapped her in the face. Also, they suggested there have been approximately 10 undocumented physical altercations between the 2 of them. He got arrested and he's out on $10,000.
Here's what nobody in boxing wants to admit. Tank Davis represents everything wrong with how the sport handles domestic violence. Promoters, broadcasters, and sanctioning bodies have looked the other way for years because he sells tickets and generates revenue. They've enabled this behavior by continuing to book him for major fights despite his history. They've sent the message that as long as you can knock people out in the ring, what you do outside the ring doesn't matter. And now they're all scrambling to distance themselves as federal authorities close in on their meal ticket.
Shows Gervonta Davis getting a heavy escort before bonding out of jail. Now some are asking, was this special treatment? Local 10's Leanne Motorhong is outside the jail in West Miami-Dade with much more.
I've been at Local 10 for 15 years, and I don't remember another escort like this one, except for one. A bondsman I spoke to said this type of escort by corrections is not common. Boxer Gervonta Davis bonded out of jail on Friday, charged with misdemeanor domestic violence battery. He left through the normal inmate release door, but what was unusual were the 3 corrections officers escorting him, one of them guiding him by the arm as reporters were kept at bay. The scene raised questions about whether this was a form of preferential treatment.
Maybe if it's a high-profile client like an athlete or a politician, you might see that in certain circumstances to keep the crowd control down, but you don't see it very.
So here's where we stand right now. One of boxing's biggest stars is officially a fugitive from justice, facing charges that could end his career and his freedom permanently. The U.S. Marshals are actively hunting him down with resources typically reserved for dangerous criminals. His alleged victim has medical evidence and witness testimony supporting her claims, and the boxing world that protected him for years is finally being forced to confront the monster they helped create. This isn't just about Tank Davis anymore. This is about whether the sport of boxing will finally hold its stars accountable or continue enabling violence as long as it's profitable.
For Gervonta's next fights, his career going forward, well, one, I think he has to focus on this case, right? You know, if he is convicted, it could lead to some jail time, and that's obviously going to postpone any plans he has for any fights in the future. You know, this incident made it so that Anthony Joshua went in and took his spot for the Jake Paul fight that happened a few weeks back last December at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida. I know if they do resolve this issue, they work something out, that the next couple of fights for Tank are going to be very much put under a microscope. He's going to have a lot of potentially negative attention, criticism from the public on those fights. I know there's lucrative rematches there for him with Lamont Roach, with Pitbull Cruz, amongst other fighters. The winner of potentially Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez would be a big fight for him as well. But you got to ask yourself too, how are the commissions going to react to this, and if they're going to give any issues to him in terms of licensing him for fights in their state. It's important to say this clearly. These are accusations at this point. He hasn't been convicted of anything.
The most heartbreaking part of this entire situation is that it was completely preventable. Tank had every resource available to him: money for the best therapists, anger management programs, personal security to remove him from volatile situations. He had people around him whose job was to protect his career and his reputation. Yet here we are, watching a generational talent throw away everything he worked for because he couldn't keep his hands to himself outside the ring. And the real victims in all this aren't just the women he's allegedly hurt. It's every young fighter who looked up to him, every fan who believed in him, and everyone who thought boxing could be better than this.
Hands, my nigga, you about to throw everything away because you got a problem with your hands. And I have to say allegedly, but at the same time, it's bad and it doesn't look good for you, Tank, because you got a habit where we actually see footage of you doing the same exact things when you grab that female and at that sports arena. You grab that female by the back of her neck and you dragged her out the same way this female was describing. And see, the sad part about it is, we can all tell that this is about to become a money grab, because if this is a situation that happened 3 months ago, why are you filing charges now? Because it's over with? The relationship is in the garbage? And whoever's advising him is telling him to let you go because everything is getting ready to go in the garbage? It frustrates me and it irritates me that every successful black man, especially the athletes, their downfall is a woman. Tank, you gotta do better. You the best of the best at your game. You're gonna throw everything away, you're gonna have these females sue you and take all your money through lawsuits and put you in jail? And put you in jail, my nigga? Come on, Tank. You got to do better. Hassan Campbell.
So there you have it. A superstar athlete is on the run from federal authorities, facing charges that could put him away for decades, all because a pattern of alleged violence finally caught up with him. This isn't just about one man's fall from grace. This is about an entire sport being forced to reckon with how it enables and protects abusers. The question isn't whether Tank Davis can recover from this, it's whether boxing can. What do you think happens next? Does he turn himself in and try to fight these charges, or does this end with him being dragged into court in handcuffs? Drop your predictions in the comments, smash that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, and subscribe because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one.
I've heard you say that you don't like to bring your family to fights that you feel like are going to be a war. Do you feel like this is a fight that you'll bring your family to?
Nah, I don't think so. Nah, I won't bring them there.
Why? Do you feel like it's going to be a war?
I think it's more so leave the kids and the woman home.
Yeah,
sure.
And let the men handle business?
Yeah, even my mom's, you gotta stay home.
Really?
But my mom is she's tough, but nah.
See, mom's being at the fight is a mainstay, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen her at the fights, we've seen her talking to you, and you're like, Mom, what's up? You know, and then get back. But even this one,
nah.
No mom deuce.
Nah, it can get ugly.
This is strictly business.
On both sides. This is a 50-50 fight.
But hold up, because there's another angle to this story that's about to blow your mind. While everyone's focused on the manhunt and the charges, there's a financial nightmare unfolding behind the scenes that could bankrupt Tank Davis, even if he somehow avoids prison time. We're talking about a web of contracts, endorsement deals, and legal obligations that are crashing down like dominoes. His promotional contract with Mayweather Promotions reportedly has morality clauses that could void his entire deal. That's potentially hundreds of millions in future earnings, just evaporating overnight. And here's something that's flying completely under the radar: the civil lawsuits that are about to bury him alive. Criminal charges are just the beginning. His alleged victim can now file a massive civil suit for damages, emotional distress, medical expenses, and punitive damages. But it gets worse. Every previous accuser who settled quietly in the past, they can potentially reopen their cases or file new ones based on this pattern of behavior. We're looking at a legal avalanche that could cost him everything he's ever earned, even if he beats the criminal charges. The timing of this couldn't be worse for Tank's career trajectory either. He was in negotiations for what could have been the biggest payday of his life, a potential super fight with Ryan Garcia that insiders valued at over $50 million for Tank alone. That deal is now completely dead in the water. No promoter, no network, no venue is going to touch him while he's got federal marshals hunting him down. The Garcia camp has already started making noise about finding a different opponent. And honestly, can you blame them? Who wants to build a massive pay-per-view event around a guy who might be sitting in federal prison when fight night arrives? But here's where this gets really crazy. Tank's team is apparently still trying to salvage his image through social media manipulation. Multiple sources are reporting that his management company has hired a crisis PR firm specializing in celebrity scandals. They're allegedly flooding social platforms with bots and fake accounts trying to shift the narrative, claiming this is all a setup or a money grab. It's the same playbook they've used before, but this time it's backfiring spectacularly. Real fans are seeing right through it, and the desperation is making everything look even worse. What's absolutely insane is the impact this is having on other fighters in similar situations. Boxers with their own legal troubles are suddenly getting way more scrutiny from promoters and networks. The whole boys will be boys attitude that's protected problematic fighters for decades is crumbling in real time. Sponsors are pulling out of deals left and right, not just with Tank, but with anyone who has even minor legal issues. The business side of boxing is finally waking up to the fact that these scandals can destroy their investments overnight. And speaking of investments, let me tell you about the people who are losing serious money because of Tank's actions. His training camp employed dozens of people sparring partners, coaches, nutritionists, security personnel. All of those jobs just disappeared. His scheduled fights supported entire event production teams, venue staff, broadcast crews. We're talking about hundreds of people whose livelihoods depended on Tank Davis being able to fight professionally. Now they're all scrambling to find work, because one man couldn't control his behavior outside the ring. The psychological aspect of this situation is something nobody's really diving into, but it's crucial to understanding how we got here. Tank grew up in one of Baltimore's most dangerous neighborhoods, surrounded by violence and trauma from day one. Boxing literally saved his life by giving him a way out of the streets. But here's the problem. No one ever taught him how to process that trauma or break the cycle of violence that shaped his childhood. Success in the ring masked the fact that he never learned healthy ways to handle conflict or relationships. This is where the boxing establishment really failed him. They saw his talent, they saw his marketability, and they threw money at him without ever addressing the underlying issues that made him dangerous outside the ring. Compare that to how other sports handle troubled athletes. The NFL has mandatory counseling programs, anger management requirements, and strict behavioral protocols. Boxing. It's still the Wild West, where promoters care more about ticket sales than player welfare or public safety. But here's what's really keeping me up at night about this whole situation. Tank Davis has a massive following among young people, especially in urban communities where kids see him as proof that you can make it out of poverty through boxing. What message does this send to those kids? That violence is acceptable as long as you're successful. That money and fame put you above the law. That women are disposable as long as you can throw punches for pay. The cultural impact of this scandal goes way beyond sports. It's affecting how an entire generation views success, accountability, and respect. The international boxing community is watching this unfold with a mixture of horror and relief. Horror because it confirms every negative stereotype about American boxing being corrupt and violent. Relief because it's finally forcing conversations about accountability that should have happened years ago. European and Asian promoters are already using this as an example of why their more regulated approach to professional boxing is superior. They're poaching American talent by promising better behavioral standards and more professional environments. And let's talk about the elephant in the room that everyone's dancing around, the role of social media in enabling this behavior. Tank's Instagram and Twitter accounts have been full of aggressive posts, veiled threats, and displays of wealth and power that clearly fed into his sense of invincibility. His millions of followers liked and shared content that glorified violence and disrespect toward women. The platforms themselves bear some responsibility for allowing this toxic masculinity to flourish unchecked. Now that same social media presence is being used as evidence against him by prosecutors. Here's something that's absolutely blowing my mind. The legal experts I've been talking to say this case could set precedents that change how domestic violence cases involving celebrities are prosecuted. The combination of surveillance footage, medical evidence, witness testimony, and his documented history creates what they're calling a perfect storm for conviction. Prosecutors are treating this as a test case for whether the justice system can finally hold famous athletes accountable at the same level as regular citizens. The ripple effects are already hitting other combat sports too. MMA promotions are quietly reviewing their fighter contracts and adding stricter behavioral clauses. Amateur boxing organizations are implementing new background check requirements. Even youth boxing programs are having to address parents' concerns about whether the sport promotes violence outside the gym. Tank's actions are literally changing how an entire category of sports operates. But here's the part that's really eating at me as someone who loves this sport. Tank Davis was supposed to be boxing's next crossover star. He had everything needed to bring mainstream attention back to a sport that's been struggling for relevance. His fighting style was exciting, his personality was magnetic, and his story was inspiring. He could have been the face that brought boxing back to primetime television and major cultural relevance. Instead, he's become the poster child for everything wrong with the sport's culture and values. What makes this even more tragic is that there are dozens of incredibly talented, professional, respectful fighters who will never get the opportunities Tank wasted. Guys who train just as hard, fight just as skillfully, but don't have his promotional machine or media attention. Now they're all dealing with the fallout from his actions as sponsors become more cautious and networks become more selective. One man's criminal behavior is literally holding back an entire sport's progress. The most disturbing part of all this, Sources close to the situation are saying Tank still doesn't fully understand the gravity of what he's facing. Even while federal marshals are hunting him down, even with his career in ruins, people around him say he's still talking like this is just another obstacle he can overcome with the right lawyers and enough money. That level of disconnection from reality suggests this situation is going to get much worse before it gets better.